So a few weeks ago, I published a video called Make Spore 2 Already, which made the case that developers should make Spore 2 already. If you've watched the video, you may find that a big portion of it is just a spacey background with an angry screed on it and me narrating something unrelated in the background. In the original cut of that video, I was explaining how Spore works over Spore trailer footage. Official Spore trailer footage published and created by Electronic Arts for the purposes of advertising their product. There wasn't even any sound from the trailer, it was just the footage in like a small frame. The spacey background was taking up the borders of the screen still. But YouTube's Content ID system found this and copy-claimed the entire video before it was even published. Thus, I took out the trailer footage and just re-rendered and re-uploaded the video because fuck that noise. And yes, I did end up talking about Spore a lot in the video that was about Spore still, but what EA essentially did here was to stop me from airing an ad that they themselves had made for a game that they are still selling, by the way, for absolutely free on my platform. They were stifling word-of-mouth propaganda for their product, even though word of mouth is an extremely effective advertising tool. I don't want to say nothing, but that's pretty dumb. And the thing is, I wouldn't have re-rendered the video without the copy claim section if the copyright system was a little fairer. I would probably have said, well, fair point, EA, you can have a bit of the money from my video, and they would have made more money. But the copyright claiming system is not, in fact, fair. If only you use a little bit of trailer footage, in many cases, when you're reviewing or commenting on a product, which, by the way, is perfectly legal. This falls under the purview of fair use under American law, which YouTube functions under American law. That company can just claim all of the ad revenue of your entire video in perpetuity, even though the vast majority of the work put into that video and the original content came from you, not them. You can still turn off monetization out of spite, but that's still a piece of content that you put huge amounts of work into. They're not gonna notice it in their bottom line, but depending on how your channel works, it might be a big chunk of your income. How do we fix this? Well, it's actually pretty simple. We just pay out a percentage of the ad revenue correspondent with the amount of copyrighted footage that was in the video. Let's say you have a 10-minute video, 2 minutes of that video is just trailer footage, thus that section gets copy claimed, and 20% of the total ad revenue that video will generate goes to the copyright holder. For the record, I still believe it's a very stupid idea to copy claim trailer footage because it stifles word of mouth, but that's neither here nor there. If in those 2 minutes of trailer footage that were played, they only play the video of the trailer footage, and the sound is completely done by the commentator or the reviewer talking about the game, you don't get 20% of the ad revenue, but just 10% of the ad revenue. Just because it's a very round thing to say that half of the video's ad revenue is generated by video, and the other half is generated by the audio. You could even develop a tool that specifically detects background music where someone is still speaking over it, and then you could split the background track again and then give that amount of revenue to the proper parties. So if you make a video that is completely your own except for the fact that you're using a copyrighted song in the background while you are talking over it, you get all of the revenue from the video, which is 50%, but then the audio track is split into 25%, which is your voice, which is you get 25% of the ad revenue from that, but the other 25%, and ultimately 25% of the video in total, will go to whoever holds the copyright to that song. If your video is 100% not yours, obviously, 100% of the revenue will go to whoever holds the content. You could basically eliminate copy claim locking this way, because each party that contributes to the video in some way is paid out in accordance to how much they contributed to the video. This could even restore part of the original YouTube Wild West, where everyone was just using copyrighted content all of the time. The copyright holders would still be compensated, and the people making the videos would still get a chunk of the ad revenue that their original content made. You do, of course, have to consider sequentiality in this, so if, for instance, you have some kind of YTP, That usually consists entirely of copyrighted footage. However, it is cut up in such a way that there is no sequentiality to the original material that is in the system that Content ID would recognize. Thus, even though the bits of footage that you use in a YTP may technically be copyright claimable, of course, they're not actually copy claimable, because it falls under fair use. And the system would easily be able to recognize this, because once you take an original thing and you destroy its sequentiality, it is no longer the original thing, even if it was originally made of things to which there were copyright. And I mean, it's not like copyright holders don't just upload their stuff that is copyrighted to YouTube themselves. Vivo channels are a thing. And, you know, obviously I am not the first person to suggest a system like this. I assume I've never seen anyone suggest it, but this is not a very big exercise in genius, so presumably someone else has had this idea. Probably this idea has been floated in at least one meeting at YouTube headquarters. Implementing a system like this would essentially be a complete win. YouTube would do something that the creators love, the fans love. Copyright holders would still get fair compensation for the stuff that was used in videos. The losses for creators would be minimized. The quality of content might even be increased. Fortunately, we do not live in a world where things happen in a way that is fair or makes sense. YouTube isn't conspiring against their creators with copyright holders in smoke-filled back rooms. They're not against the creators. They probably would like to implement a fairer system. It's the copyright holders who go up to YouTube and say, listen, I know there's a new way of consuming content on this internet thing that my son keeps talking about. We realized we can't stop this from happening, but because your creators are inferior, anytime some of our shit is in there, we get all of the money. Just all of the money. And if you don't do that, we're gonna fuck your company to death with lawsuits, capiche? Hence why we are in the situation that we are in. It would still be nice to have the system as like an optional thing, that if you are a copyright holder, you can click the box that says, yeah, I will be compensated in accordance to how much of my content was actually used, so we can know which copyright holders are massive dicks and which are progressive in the way that they look to a fairer and more future-proof content sharing system. And having a system like this would obviously not fix all of the many problems that YouTube's copyright system has. Manual claims by copyright trolls would still be a massive issue. And of course, just the whole principle of your accuser decides whether or not you are guilty unless you want to front a huge amount of money to go to an American court of law, which may or may not decide in your favor because they don't really care about what the law actually says if the other guy has a better lawyer. That kind of system also is, you might say, a little bit rigged against the little man. And it turns out that people who are in positions of power will rarely do the right thing in the interest of honor, because doing things in the interest of honor is not how you get into positions of power. But as we move into the future and more content is held by individuals instead of their middlemen, because machines now do all the claiming work and all the parasites in the arts industries are just superfluous and can go on benefits, maybe, I don't know. As that happens, I think a fairer revenue sharing system in regards to copyright is something that many people will push for. Commentary, remixes, satire, reviews have always been a thing, but they are a massive, massive part of the sea of content that we navigate. And I don't think just big newspapers and television stations should be able to do that kind of content, because I don't think you should need an army of roided up lawyers to fight people who will try to silence you through the court system. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, post this video to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. Consider supporting me on Patreon. Consider buying some of my merchandise. Maybe consider following me on Twitter. Or not, I'm not your dad. And in that spirit, be open to the idea that actually we do have the technology to be a lot fairer in the way we could do things. We're just not. And see you around, cunts.